Citizen Debate Commission, which is the national debate sponsor we've created, what we find so egregious about the process is the lack of transparency. If the Republican and Democratic candidates wanted to control the presidential debates, they could do so. They could host their own debates. They could host the debates in their living rooms. They could exclude any third-party challenger they wanted. They could employ the most boring possible formats imaginable and avoid discussing critical issues. The media would cover it. It's their First Amendment right. So why do they work with this private corporation called the Commission on Presidential Debates? To avoid accountability. If the Republican Democratic nominees openly hosted their own debates and excluded third-party challengers, important issues, and challenging formats, they would be held accountable, and they might pay a price on Election Day.
Accountable because of the issue of equal time?
Accountable because the American people would be upset at the candidates for excluding someone they want to see, avoiding discussing issues they want to hear about, or seeing them stilt and modify formats that they actually would rather have to be engaging. And as a result, the candidates end up participating in presidential debates that they can manipulate behind closed doors without being held accountable. An unaccountable organization called the Commission on Presidential Debates is more than happy to take the heat and be blamed for the candidates' secret manipulations. That is the most egregious problem.
Frank Fahrenkopf, the former chairman of the Republican National Committee, and Paul Kirk, the former chairman of the Democratic Committee, both the co-chairs of the Commission on Presidential Debates. Our next call comes to us from Memphis. Good morning.
Morning. Can you hear me all right?
Sure can.
Okay. Thanks very much for this young man. I think I am a World War II veteran on Memorial Day, so hear me out, please. As a young man, I flew naval airplanes at night, bombing Jap ships. I'm no hero. I'm a survivor. I'm the heir of John Glenn and many other young men. Being philosophical for a second, ask our greatest truth and our greatest asset is the search for truth, and that's why that gentleman is there. That's why C-SPAN is there. We have to have the truth about everything. Now, about debates, we need more time, more issues brought out. George Bush Sr. looking at his watch during the debate, that struck me very strange, as if he didn't have time to put in any more time. But I want to say that I can back this up in Barbara Bush's memoirs. John Danforth, she tells about she and her husband going down visiting Ashcroft and Danforth, Missouri, and what a wonderful guy Thomas. They were pushing for Thomas's to become member of the Supreme Court, and of course James Baker, big connections, oil companies. Just read the history of that family. Read the history of the Bush family, the father, the grandfather, the grandmother's father, the great-grandfather, all had oil connections, and you say this war is not for oil. And then you read, debate why former President Bush, along with Baker, former Carlyle Group, who are doing business with the Pentagon. These asinine things should be debated, and my generation is dying off fast, and I'm very sad to leave this world such a horrible condition. And this young man keeps searching for truth, and you that's the greatest thing you could do in your life. I thank you very much.
Thank you for your call, and thank you for your service.
Thank you too, sir, for your service, and thank you for your praise. The issues you raised related to Bush's family and the issues related to the political connections in Washington are issues that will not be raised in the presidential debates if they continue to be run by the Commission on Presidential Debates. Senator John Kerry, even if he wanted to raise them, would not be able to because he could not speak to President George W. Bush because the questions would be selected by Jim Lehrer and be directed the same question to both candidates, so they could not ask a specific question of the President of the United States. The search for truth is absolutely critical, and I'm glad you put this in such broad philosophical terms. What we're trying to do actually is very simple. We're trying to ensure that the most important forum for the education of the American people is controlled by an organization that exists to serve the American people, not by an organization that exists to serve political parties. And that relates to the broad pursuit of truth in order to elect candidates that the American people really want to serve in public office.
George Farah, who is an author, a Princeton grad, and now at Harvard Law School. Our next call is North Adams, Massachusetts. Good morning.
Hi, Steve. That last guy from Memphis was right on. My question is not like whether the third parties are going to get into the debates, but are there going to be debates at all? I haven't really heard if there's going to be any debates.
Thank you.
Yeah, the Commission on Presidential Debates, as it does every 4 years, has proposed 3 presidential debates and 1 vice presidential debate. And I find it extraordinarily unimaginable that the major party candidates would avoid debates entirely. If you are seen avoiding debates in 2004, which was not the case, say, 40 years ago, if you are seen avoiding debates in 2004, you will pay an extraordinary price in this election cycle. The American people demand presidential debates. They think it's their obligation. It is the one night that most Americans decide to find out who they think ought to be voted president. If we're successful, the Citizens Debate Commission displaces the Commission on Presidential Debates, there will be 5 presidential debates and 1 vice presidential debates in 6 colleges, universities, in 6 swing states around the country.
Our last call as we take a look at the book by George Farah, now available at bookstores, called No Debate, Batesville, Arkansas. Go ahead.
Hi. Happy Memorial Day. I was wanting to know, when Kerry announced that he didn't know if he was going to accept his nomination, Bush jumped on that and said, oh, it's a great political rally, so I think I'll have one too, and you know, demand equal time. With all the speeches, the high-profile speeches Bush is going to deliver between now and the turnover of sovereignty in Iraq, why can't Kerry do the same thing and ask for equal time? Because those are going to be, I mean, it's just grandstanding. Does Kerry not, is he not able to do the same thing?
Thank you.
I think there is an obligation on behalf of the media networks to award as much equal time as possible for leading contenders for the presidency. But there is no event like the presidential debates. Even if Bush gave 6 policy speeches, at each of those policy speeches he's going to have a teleprompter in front of him. He's going to be reading off a screen. He will not make that many mistakes. The same is likely true of Kerry if he's giving a major policy speech. Sometimes in rallies, of course, they're speaking off the cuff. But rarely do you have the candidates answering pointed questions and addressing and discussing significant issues in a forum that is challenging. The only forum that has the potential to do that is the presidential debates. They were real debates from 1976 until 1984. They have been pseudo-debates, bipartisan press conferences since 1988 because the Commission on Presidential Debates, a creature of the Republican Democratic parties, has sponsored them. We want real debates. We want to bring them back to the American people so you hear the candidates discussing the issues. Please visit our website, opendebates.org.
George Farah, who funds Open Debates?
It's funded entirely by public donations. We're a 501c3 nonpartisan organization. We raise money from the public, and we'd be delighted to receive more contributions.
How much do you have in your budget currently?
6 figures.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank
Please
you
come
very
back
much.
again.
Much appreciated. Thank you, Steve.
Our phone lines are open. Tell us what's on